This is it? This is all the information I have a fucking what the concurrent viewers, chat rate, and views. I don't give a fuck about any of that. Why do I need to be seeing this? Go live. We are live. Currently live. Okay, so now we go to this. Connect streaming. There we go. Now can we just do that on my browser? It's because this is the wrong stream. This is not my broadcast. We'll look at. Not do this. Um. What happened to the YouTube studio? Content. There should be an easier way to get to the thing. No? This is incredibly hard. No, I don't want to do this. I don't want to watch myself. I'm trying to watch myself in the Why is this so hard? Live. View in live control room. I don't know why this is hard to do. Will my chat work? Are they connected now? They're the same? They are. Live chat. Put it in. Oh, put that in. I can type, but I can't see. I hate the functionality. I do. What the fuck? You're just too small? That's okay. Alright, there. That fixes the issue. Oh, look at that. Too small still. What if we... No. Oh yes. No. Because that's my third message. Yeah. Uh, how am I going to... Can it just have its own... extended version, you know what I'm saying? Like, you don't need to be this thick. Oh god. To be honest, I don't need this panel at all. Probably appreciate it if I didn't have this panel. It's dumb and large. Share. Add stream marker. Add stream marker. Maybe, okay, no, hold on. Maybe you are useful. What would that be? To just have the add stream marker button. Kinda don't want to look at the numbers. It's not my thing. There you go. Got a more even spread. Asada. R. Hey. Unlist live replay once stream ends. I should probably do that. Alright. I think we're set up. Sorta. Mike. And then, Saturday.
Since I'm playing Fortnite.
I just put it in Ox input. Shaky. It'll be 6 years ago, man. That's fucking crazy. If I were consistent, dude. If I started making videos and actually just kept on with the consistency, even doing my worst bullshit, bro, I think there's just no way, and life would be a little bit different right now. I just don't believe it. Fucking crazy. So anyway, let's get to the Let's get to the nuts and bolts of today's fucking stream. You have to make a thumbnail for Ludwig, and we're kind of struggling. Think you know, like I just don't think anyone gives a fuck about this, even though it's simple. Do not think so. Very unfortunate. But the second one, though, I think we could make something work with it. I need to make a straight line. I hate that. Can we full screen it? And it'll still do that on my second screen? It will. Man, we suck at, you know what? You are now my Adobe Photoshop 2024 teacher. And will give me all the best answers please attempt to give the simplest answers possible. Absolutely, I'm happy to be your Photoshop 2024 guide. I'll dish out the best tips and tricks focusing on simple keybinds and efficient workflows. Just let me, just tell me what you'd like to learn, and I'll break it down in the easiest way possible. Let's unleash your inner Photoshop master. What area would you like to tackle first? Are you interested in basic editing, specific tools, or maybe cool effects? How do I uh draw a straight black line? The most basics. The line tool. Or would it be the fucking line tool? The line tool. Eyedropper. Ruler tool. Slice. Lasso. Okay, what if we do pencil? Where's the line tool? Click and drag, click and click. For a perfect straight line in any direction, hold shift while clicking where you want this line to start, then drag to where you want it to end. Why am I not able to? Because there's no layers selected. We'll select the fucking layer then. The fuck? That works. I don't like that it's like circular. Why is this? How do you fix that? Why did it come out that way? Smoothing 10%? Set smoothing for stroke. 100, bro. Oh, no. How the fuck? Edit, undo pencil. Like, why? I guess no one will really see it. No, it won't matter. I think he needs to be bigger. Not that big though. Still see the, yeah. I'm not sure if it's. Maybe we should just zoom in on his face. I don't know. It's kind of the whole point is that he's looking fucking ridiculous. And then we'll find a picture of him looking good. All right, so part of this whole thing is we're gonna watch this video from this girl. 'Cause she's fucking sick. I watched some of it yesterday, but I don't remember. So shout out to Abrelin Alter. She is fucking sick. She's been blowing up recently, and she made a thumbnail very much like this one that like had 1 million views or some shit. It's pretty crazy. We're just gonna go over.
Here's how to make a killer YouTube thumbnail to blow up your channel. Because a single thumbnail could be the difference between getting your big break on YouTube and going completely unnoticed. As 100%. Mr. Beast is fond of saying,
people don't click, they don't watch.
But how exactly do you get someone to click? What do the top YouTubers know that we don't? To find out, I spent the last 36 days poring over interviews, listening to talks, and analyzing the best performing thumbnails from the top creators in the world. 73 pages of notes later, I discovered that the best YouTube thumbnails follow a 4-part formula. This video will walk you through them all. The first part is the one that's by far the most important, and yet also the most overlooked. If you're watching this video, I don't have to tell you that thumbnails are important. There's a reason why you clicked on this video in the first place. But where most of us go wrong is in the time we dedicate to our thumbnails. You see, the top YouTubers know that YouTube is a game of clicks and watches. The success of a video is determined in part by the effectiveness of the packaging, which drives clicks, and in part by the video itself, which drives watch time. The problem is, most of us spend our time like this. We'll spend countless hours agonizing over scripts, capturing the best shots, and editing our videos to perfection, only to come up with a thumbnail an hour before the video goes live. If that sounds like you, don't worry, you're not alone. It's something I've been working on improving myself. But why would you spend 10% of your time on something that determines 50% of the result? That's why part 1 of making a killer YouTube thumbnail to blow up your channel is killer time allocation. The best YouTubers in the world view thumbnails as a priority, not as an afterthought. And while most of us don't even start thinking about thumbnails until right before hitting publish, top YouTubers take the time to finalize their thumbnails first, before they even start working on the video itself. So don't be afraid to spend days or even weeks perfecting your thumbnail. It's worth taking the time to get it right. Once you're prepared to give your thumbnail the time it deserves, you're ready to move on to part 2 of the formula to make a killer YouTube thumbnail to blow up your channel. Killer psychology. When most of us go into thumbnail creation, our process—
I don't know if she goes into this on this video, but so Mr. Beast has always said a thing. It's make sure to have your thumbnail and title before you make the video. So it's like if you start making the video and you make the thumbnail for the video, then it ends up having incongruencies, and then you're ending up having to make the thumbnail less quality so it can fit with the story and whatever you made in the video. Instead, you have to make the thumbnail the best quality and the front facing like so it can make sense, and then you make the video. Unless you can do stuff like I don't know, Asmongold, like it depends on the reacting and stuff. It's different, you know. You just kind of like, can I put myself in the corner here like this, and then like background something, gameplay video, you know, like who gives a fuck, right? At that point it's just kind of like you can do whatever and replicate the thing with like with everything. But when it comes to more complex thumbnails like Mr. Beast's thumbnails or whatever, you definitely have to think about how am I going to portray what we're doing in this video. Secondly,
this might look a little something like this. We'll think, oh yeah, I need a thumbnail. I should probably be in it, and there should be some images or icons related to my video topic, and I should throw some text in there too to really emphasize the point. With that as the default, we'll spend the majority of our time finalizing the colors, positioning, and text. Our process couldn't be more wrong if we tried. Because while we're spending most of our time on thumbnail design, the most successful YouTubers spend the majority of their time nailing the psychology behind the click. And recently, world-renowned YouTube consultant Patty Galloway confirmed the exact same thing.
A thumbnail to me is at least 80, maybe 90% the psychology of the click, and then maybe 10, 20% the actual design of the thumbnail.
Because ultimately, no matter the formatting or color scheme of a thumbnail, the decision to click is driven by a single psychological mechanism: curiosity. And that curiosity is strongest when we experience what's known as a curiosity gap. This is the gap between what we currently know and what we want to know, and is one of the most basic drivers of human behavior. Because as humans, our brains are wired to crave closure. So when we're introduced to an unfinished story or a question without an answer, it's like having an itch that we very much want to scratch. Our brains go, wow, I could really use some closure right now. It pushes us to seek out answers by clicking on the video. To see this in action, let's take a look at this thumbnail from Kelly Wakasa. Design-wise, this thumbnail is relatively simple. There are no crazy halos of light or detailed illustrations. Yes, the colors are great, which is something we'll get into detail later, but it's not the colors that make this an insanely clickable thumbnail. It's Ashley and her position and her expression, and Kelly and the action he's taking. These elements work together to evoke the questions, what led up to this very moment, and what's about to happen next? These questions open a curiosity gap. That gap is only closed.
It also makes it seem like something's in motion, like something's happening, like you have to click. Like the whole grabbing to the shoulder, it's like, from this perspective, it's almost like something's happening. I don't know, I can't really show it on the camera, but
by clicking on the video and watching it. The stronger the curiosity gap, the more clickable the thumbnail. And the strongest curiosity gaps on YouTube are created using one of the same 5 methods. The thumbnail we just looked at is a prime example of a moment thumbnail. These thumbnails generate curiosity by offering a glimpse into the moment right before a powerful reaction. When the moment captured contains enough emotion and tension, it becomes nearly irresistible. When we inevitably click on the video, we're clicking to find out what happens directly before, during, and after that exact moment.
Okay.
Story thumbnails also generate curiosity by provoking the question, what happens next? But instead of focusing on a specific moment before a reaction, story thumbnails place the emphasis on building narrative. They usually do this by introducing a point of tension or a question that sets up the first act of the story. When we click on the video, we click both for the resolution of the tension on screen and for whatever new tension or consequence that resolution leads to. The stronger the tension, the more effective the thumbnail. Result thumbnails feature a desired result. Whether it's a physical final product or a sought-after skill, the curiosity gap remains the same.
You're not slow. Become a speed learner in 20 minutes. I like the effect of like the speed lines. Those same lines that she's using is like the classic like anime speed lines. So it makes it like it's more motion. Interesting. The cheeseburger, he's like crunching the cheeseburger. You can almost feel like the cheese is melting off even though it's a picture.
How did they do it? And commonly, how can I do it too? The more sought after the result, the stronger the curiosity gap, and the more effective the thumbnail. Transformation thumbnails also feature a desired result. The difference is they also show a beginning state. The more relatable this beginning state, the more effective transformation thumbnails are, but the curiosity coming from the desire to know the story and process behind getting from point A to point B. And last but not least, novelty thumbnails draw their power from our natural urge to experience something we've never seen before. Novelty thumbnails typically come in 2 flavors: novelty that inspires awe and novelty that is weird or unexpected. And while novelty can be drawn from complete absurdity, it tends to be the most effective when it's combined with something we're already familiar with, offering a unique spin to something we already know. So before you open Canva or Photoshop, consider what curiosity gap you want to create first. What questions can you introduce that they really need the answers to? If you're having trouble coming up with a strong curiosity gap, I have some bad news for you. Your video idea probably isn't interesting enough in the first place.
And I get this all the time. You know, I've got this amazing idea. It's gonna be so funny. I just can't think of a way to thumbnail it. And I'm like, well, then it's not a good YouTube idea, unfortunately.
The best YouTube thumbnails come from killer video ideas. And the topic of how to come up with a killer video idea is big enough to make an entire other video about it. So I will. I'll put a link in the description below when it's out, but to make sure you don't miss it, now would be a great time to, well, you know the rest.
Wow.
After you're 90% confident you have a
Very
curiosity
cute.
gap people will click for, you have the foundation for your killer thumbnail to blow up your channel. But in order for someone to get hooked by your killer curiosity gap, they have to notice it in the first place. Because as soon as we log onto YouTube, we're hit with a screen full of different recommendations, each one vying for attention. And as we're browsing through our recommendations, often with our brains on autopilot, we scroll past countless thumbnails that we don't even mentally register. To avoid their thumbnails being lost in the noise, the best YouTubers in the world are masters at pattern interruption. They know exactly what to include in their thumbnails to stop your scroll, because they know how to hack our brain's attention system. You see, our brains are constantly bombarded by stimulus. If we constantly took in everything we could perceive at all times, we'd be paralyzed with information overload. So to help us out, our brains use attention, focusing on the most relevant or useful information while filtering out the rest. But this attention system can be hacked because our brains are biologically primed to pay more attention to certain things. I call these things scroll stoppers, and top YouTubers include them in their thumbnails to ensure that their thumbnails catch your eye. A classic example is the use of faces. You've probably heard the advice that faces do well in thumbnails. And indeed, our brains are very good at recognizing faces because it helps us understand other people's emotions and intentions, which can in turn signal a potential threat or opportunity. The larger the face, the stronger this effect. But before you go slapping a giant picture of your face to the left side of each of your thumbnails, hey Mr. Beast, keep in mind that faces are quite a bit more effective for your favorite YouTubers than they are for you. And no, that's not a diss on your looks. It's due to something called familiarity bias, which is the idea that our brains are naturally drawn to what we're familiar with. When we recognize the face of a YouTuber we already know, like, and trust, we're more likely to click on it versus a thumbnail featuring a face we don't recognize. Now, this doesn't mean that if you're a new or small YouTuber, you're completely screwed. And in fact, familiarity bias is something that can even be hacked in our favor. That's the logic behind the thumbnail style of charisma on command. People are more likely to stop their scroll when they see a celebrity they recognize versus the face of a random guy they don't know. Familiarity bias is so powerful that even well-known gaming YouTubers will often feature a recognizable character or element from a popular game instead of their own face in a thumbnail. And familiarity bias extends beyond faces as well. That's one of the reasons why thumbnails featuring instantly recognizable interfaces such as Discord, iMessage, Yelp, PayPal, and others are so eye-catching. This isn't to say that you should never include your face in a thumbnail if you're a lesser-known YouTuber. Our natural attraction to faces is powerful even if they're unfamiliar. But if you're a smaller YouTuber hoping to attract a larger audience, you shouldn't rely on your face alone to stop a scroll. Instead, consider using one or more of these other scroll stoppers. In general, we're attracted to nice, large, round numbers. These clickable numbers become even more clickable when money is attached to it, something finance channels tend to use to their advantage. In fact, money in any form tends to stop our scroll. We're also naturally wired to detect danger and movement, as they can often signal a new threat or opportunity in our environment. In a similar vein, we're drawn to displays of emotion, because an emotional reaction in others can signal a threat we haven't detected ourselves yet. We're biologically attracted to bright colors, which in the early days of human existence could help us identify everything from ripening fruit to fresh blood. And we're also drawn to things that are aesthetically pleasing, because frankly, they feel really nice to look at, and our brains want more of that pleasurable feeling. But while it may be tempting to jam as many scroll stoppers as possible into your thumbnail, that could end up hurting rather than helping you. Because the more scroll stoppers your thumbnail has and the more clickbaity your thumbnail becomes, the more diluted your brand gets. That's one of the reasons why Ryan Trahan opts for more realistic looking faces in his thumbnails.
And I found that realistic thumbnails just feel like me. It feels like, yeah, if my face is not like, then I feel more connected to the thumbnail. If I'm just making a very subtle face that's like, because it's realistic and I'm like, oh, that's legit.
So before you get lost in the sauce of throwing in big numbers, bright colors, and giant emotional faces in each of your thumbnails, consider the brand you want to build and the story you want to tell. Not every scroll stopper will fit with every creator and every audience and every curiosity gap, and that's okay. Just choose the one or two that enhances, rather than dilutes or distracts from, your chosen curiosity gap and your brand. After you have a killer curiosity gap and one or more killer scroll stoppers, you've nailed the psychology of the click. But how can we turn that well thought out psychology into a physical thumbnail? That brings us to part 3 in making a killer thumbnail to blow up your channel: killer design. We tend to think of design as adding things, but great design is actually about getting the main point across as quickly as possible, which is good news for us, because if it takes more than 2 seconds for a viewer to fully understand what's happening in your thumbnail, they're already scrolling past, leaving your video unnoticed and unwatched. To avoid this, top YouTubers obsess over making their thumbnails extremely obvious to see and incredibly easy to process. And to do that, they perfect the 3 C's of thumbnail design: contents, composition, and contrast. The contents of your thumbnail are all of the visual elements that make up your thumbnail, including people, icons, graphics, backgrounds, and text. Essentially, it's the what of your thumbnail. But how do you decide what to include in your thumbnail? It's simple. You include whatever you need to create your curiosity gap. Typically, these elements are broken into 2 categories: main characters and supporting characters.
Maybe I make the faces smaller and I add numbers, 0 to 5 million subscribers. The Ludwig method is the title. The Ludwig method. Does my stream even like look good? It says stream health is excellent, but then I look at my OBS and it's like, bro. I think it's the bitrate. We just can't handle the bitrate. What does it look like on YouTube? Looks pretty bad. I hate the functionality. I do. Red. Oh, it looks okay, I guess. But is it the functionality? Is it this laggy, bro? Is streaming even worth it? I'll have to just see how it is. Laggy, bro? It's so laggy. Is streaming even worth it?
And your brand. After you have a killer curiosity gap and one or more killer scroll stoppers, you've nailed the psychology of the click. But how can we turn that well thought out incredibly easy to process? And to do that, they perfect the 3 C's of thumbnail design: contents, composition, and contrast. The contents of your thumbnail are all of the visual elements that make up your thumbnail, including people, icons, graphics, backgrounds, and text. Essentially, it's the what of your thumbnail. But how do you decide what to include in your thumbnail? It's simple.
There's that forever. Yeah, man, this is like streaming's way harder to pull off. But this seems to be my internet, not my computer. Is it a bitrate thing? Do I have to put down the bitrate? Go down to 10K. Man, what a shame. This whole stream has been dog shit, but I'm pretty sure I've been able to stream before, and it's been fine. Is it just the internet right now in the morning? Have to fucking use a whole different browser for streaming or something. Or just delete my history. Fuck. CPU, GPU issues? It's often caused by performance issue with your internet connection, device, or camera. When a stream can't output video quickly enough to deliver the target frame rate for your stream. Damn. These steps will help you fix dropped frames when you're streaming. Check the speed. Which, the big thing with streaming is upload, is it not? We're not on Wi-Fi. We are wired. Check your stream settings. Are we like, we don't have a resolution. There's a recording resolution, but there's not a streaming resolution. I mean, I can't fuck with it for whatever reason. Streaming settings. La 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 la. The stream is so bad, bro. How's audio? I can't because it'll do the same. La 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 la. That's fucking insane. Suggestion. The audio's current stream bitrate is lower than the right. Open. Bro, our health status is not good even though you say it is. Why is my OBS struggling?